I'm your host, Dylan Pritchett, and welcome to another episode of A Wild Tomorrow, the podcast. This week with me, I have a very special guest named Dagan Kay, who started the company Produce Mate in his undergrad at the University of Portland. What Produce Mate does and what they're committed to is halting food waste in the United States and abroad. As a topic he's very passionate about, it led him to creating his first product, the Produce Mate, which is a silicone kitchen mat that you put in your drawer in your refrigerator that can make your produce last up to 2 times as long. Now, this isn't the only thing Dagan's working on, but his Kickstarter did just finish for it. So they're ready to get production going in the factory, and you can actually sign up now to purchase a Produce Mate for yourself. Dagan is very passionate about food waste and what his company is doing to fight it, and I can't wait for you to get to know him. So, without further ado, here's Dagan Kay. Without further ado, we have with me here today Dagan Kay of Produce Mate. How you doing today, Dagan?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good. Thanks for being here, dude. So do you want to
Oh,
tell us a
yeah.
little bit about Produce Mate before we get started?
Yeah, definitely. Uh, Produce Mate is the company that I've been working on for the last couple of years. We make an antimicrobial kitchen mat that fights bacteria so that your fruits and vegetables last longer. So basically, it's a thin silicone kitchen mat
Yeah.
that you leave in the refrigerator drawer or on the countertop or in a fruit bowl, and you just store your fruits and vegetables on top of it as you would normally. And it lasts for at least 2 years. Some of our longest testing has shown that it's lasted for about 2 years, which is great.
Wow. Yeah.
We're very mission driven. We're all focused on the problem of food waste, and I'm super excited to kind of crack into that egg with you today and to sort of explain why I'm so terrified of food waste. Should be awesome.
Awesome, dude. No, yeah. And I was looking through some of the links you sent me, and it said that the idea originally started by just putting silicone bands, like wristbands, in the drawer. How did you get from the food waste concern to being like, maybe I'll just throw some rubber bands in the drawer, and then that turned into
I
the
love
pad.
that.
I'm really curious about the whole process, because you've been doing this for a few years, and just the natural organic way that things grow over time.
Totally.
It's got to be a beautiful process.
Oh, yeah, certainly. So I'm in business with 2 partners. Actually, I get to work with my dad, which is really
Yeah.
cool. It's like we're starting a family business together. That's been a lot of fun. And then we have another business partner named John. My dad and John actually sort of worked in the startup space before Produce Mate. And it was through their connections that we sort of heard this rumor that, oh, some of these kind of balance bracelets and kind of these like personal well-being products
Yeah.
um, are not telling the full story, like what they're actually using and how they work. There might be some applications that are not related to like your body, because that's sort of how that they were advertised. Um, and basically antibacterial and food was the first thing that came to my mind, because I sort of knew a little bit about like how they worked.
Yeah.
So from there it was, yeah, literally like, let's get some of these things that claim to have whatever active ingredients in them, and like,
Yeah.
let's just see what happens if we leave them near a couple of apples for a
Yeah.
weekend or something. So needless to say, we didn't see hardly anything at
Okay.
first. The first real prototypes were um, hard plastic with sort of minerals like taped to the bottom. I don't know how else to describe it. Like
Yeah.
they used to make these little sort of stick-on things. We tried that for a while. So after kind of doing all these bootlegged, like, I really believe in like rapid prototyping, like build something out of cardboard, just get your idea into the world. So that's kind
Yeah.
of all the first stuff was all these really hard, weird prototypes
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
um, but we knew we were onto something like right away, and decided, it's fairly straightforward process to kind of design and mold silicone. The
Yeah.
hard part is getting the mixture right. So yeah, we quickly kind of just like put together like the first real prototype. That was a little bit over 2 years ago, which is
Wow.
crazy to say, but it was sort of this big version that we immediately started testing. We had third party tested. And then from there, the ball has just kept rolling. But So I don't know if I had to answer your question really
Yeah.
succinctly. Things have really like I don't know how to describe this. Things have really rolled into each other
Hmm.
nicely. It's really
Yeah.
interesting. Like when you open one door, like there's 50 more opportunities on the other side of it. That's sort of how Produce Mate has been so far.
Yeah, yeah, and there's so much I want to unpack behind what you just talked about, from the bootleg of creating a prototype. Because for me, in my head, something that seems to be a hurdle for anyone trying to make a business is like, oh, I have this cool idea. Now, what the hell do I do with it? You know,
Yeah.
so first things first, there, like you're making the prototypes. How do you go about finding a third party to create what is? How do you know if like even finding one that is reputable, number one? Number two is like knowing what to tell them. I think just in my mind, that's just all chaos. I know.
Yeah.
Getting it all down, like,
Yeah, totally. Well, no, I love this. I like I like that line of questioning that you just went down because I feel like almost every big step so far in the
yeah,
startup thing has been uh, full of those kind of questions of
yeah.
like, this is something familiar to me, so I can
Hmm.
start here. But every time I push the boundary or try to like build something, you always just run into all these questions. So
Yeah,
definitely that's
definitely.
part of the process. Like I definitely want to make that very clear is it's never comes super easy. Like it's always been this growing, changing thing.
Yeah. And did
Yeah,
you study entrepreneurship in college?
I did.
You
Uh-huh.
did?
Yeah.
Okay. So how
So
much like from the application from what you learned in college to real world, how
yeah.
big is that gap? Because I know I studied finance and that was a pretty big gap to the real thing
Yeah,
too.
no, totally. Um, it's a pretty big gap, I would say.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love studying entrepreneurship was cool because I was a philosophy major otherwise, and so I needed
Mm-hmm.
some teeth. I needed something that was a little more practical, and I really liked it for that aspect. Like every time we were
Yeah.
learning about how to do financial projections, for instance. Um, but a lot of this process so far has been um, needing the ability to be able to like learn on the go and
Yeah.
these to teach yourself the things that you need to succeed.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
product development, like it's been completely from the ground up.
Hmm.
I always start on Google and YouTube. I'm totally
Yeah.
a YouTube person. I think like the YouTube tutorial has probably taught more people than I don't know than just about anything. Nah,
Definitely.
that's bunk, but it's a great resource is all I mean.
Hmm.
So literally just there. It's start with a question and start on the internet, and it really blows up from there. I try to look for like firsthand experiences. I try to look for forums or Reddit
Hmm.
posts or Twitter posts, like things that are real people sharing their experience.
Yeah.
And then the other thing besides the internet is I do that in person. Like I've brought, I try every single week to like meet people that I've never met before,
Yeah.
to ask them hard questions about doing business,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my process through working through these questions has been like um, keep a strategy and a vision in mind,
Hmm.
and learn through the difficult steps that arise along the way. And
Yeah.
it's been so fun to do that, but
Yeah.
it's been totally crazy, totally a very good learning experience for sure.
Hell yeah. And I think that's a big key to it as well. Because I feel like a lot of people don't take the leap until they think they know everything,
Yeah.
but you're never gonna know everything. Also, love the logo on the cup right there. Everyone that was
I had to do that. I had to bring that up.
oh, that's amazing. Well, you are CEO, so you gotta rep, you
I got a
know.
rep. This is the only piece of merch that I own, and
uh
I definitely wear it proudly.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of the merchandise, though, I mean, you guys did just reach your goal on your Kickstarter, if not surpass it, you know? So, what next steps you're looking at? I know when I actually reached out to Dagan a couple days ago, he was busy looking for um, store space,
Yeah.
right, to get it done. So, you're a busy man right now. What what's at the prime of your mind right now with next steps in Produce Mate to start getting your merch, your product out there?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, now we're just I'm totally transitioned from this like Yeah, Kickstarter was very much about like spreading our brand. It was a very
Yeah.
like marketing and brand heavy period of time for us. And now I'm really focused a lot on growth and on recurring sales. Like I need to find a way basically for us to be able to pay for our business operations like only through
Hmm.
our sales. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like a huge milestone for us and for a lot of small companies. Is just to get to a point where you're breaking even, where you're
Hmm.
sort of maintaining a constant inflow and outflow of inventory. So that would be the goal, is to get to that point and to learn
Yeah.
about um, I call it the rhythm, I suppose. Operations is what maybe a normal
Yeah.
person would call it.
Hmm.
Um, there are a ton of logistics behind like how you get orders placed at the factory, and
Yeah.
there are lots of parties involved in our case because um, we have multiple different mineral suppliers. We have
Hmm.
a sourcing guy that communicates through the factory. We have the factory itself. We have all of our team kind of just like constantly back and forth trying to figure
Yeah.
stuff out. Um, and the timing of it all is also something that we don't know too much about. So the Kickstarter gave us a chance to like learn about our manufacturing process.
Hmm.
And now what I'm really focused on is taking that small piece of learning and scaling it to retail.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Which I feel like can definitely be a tough thing because I know personally just the companies I've worked for, like one company's order of operations is so
Yeah.
unique. You know what I mean? And then once you
Oh
start
yeah.
dipping your hands in a different bunch of different places, different forms you have to sign, different ways you have to submit. Yeah,
Totally.
that's wild. Do you guys have any specific structure in place for Produce Mate yet for how you get things done? Is it like Monday work on branding, or
Yeah.
do you have a like a task manager, something to keep you on task? Do you have a calendar that you use maybe, or handwriting in a notebook?
Yeah. So I use an application called Asana.
Asana.
Uh, yeah,
We'll
it's
write that
like
down for me.
Trello. Yeah, Asana. It's like Trello, if you've heard of Trello.
Okay.
Very, very similar, and it works pretty much just as well. I've used both of them a little bit. Um, and then, yeah, basically the way my flow works, and this has totally changed a lot since
Yeah.
quarantine. And it has also changed right now because after the Kickstarter, we're in this kind of gray middle area where
Yeah.
uh, I can't be pushing product every day because we don't have it yet, and I can't,
Hmm.
so bear in mind that this has changed a
Will
couple times.
change. Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, what I try to do is I try to spend the start of every week being like that's like strategy mode. That's like
Okay.
plan out every other day, and I try to set myself a goal every day of just like move the needle every day, like do something that is like measurably important for Produce Mate at
Very
least
cool.
once a day. Like that seems like a good goal for me, and
Hmm.
has so far been working. Like that's
Yeah.
moved us forward far enough so far. Um, yeah, but I learned so much about taking, because for a long time, I don't know how to. This is the first time I guess I've talked about this, so it's a little confusing
Yeah. Yeah. No.
to get the words exactly right. Um, to take, because for a long time, Produce Mate was just me, and one thing that
Hmm.
I've learned over the last couple months is like the more opinions you can hear, the better, and the
Yeah.
more kind of stylistic diversity you can have in the company, the better. So
Hmm.
like I need people around me who complement my skill set, obviously,
Hmm.
and who are willing to do, or who are better at things that I am not super
Yeah.
good at yet. So the remedy there was to hire interns naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I call them my interns, but I've been working with two great guys also from the University of Portland.
Yeah.
Doug and Steven are their
Hmm.
names. Um, I had to learn a lot about using Asana as a task software
Yeah.
to express my vision, like what I wanted for them to
Hmm.
accomplish. because at the end of the day, if you break down, okay, produce mate wants to be here, we want to say we want to be in 50 stores or something, like just use that as an arbitrary goal.
Yeah.
I try then to break that down and say, like, what is the smallest task that will move us there?
Yeah.
um, to do that in your own head is one thing, but to like communicate that to
Yeah.
other people very clearly and to set expectations right, like
Yeah.
correctly, is
Hmm.
also quite challenging. So I
And then
learned a
even
lot
just,
of,
yeah, converting it to the software itself is
yeah.
difficult as well because you have a limited amount of options there as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So I'm still learning about my process all the time,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that's been a theme so far in the podcast, but that's really been a theme about entrepreneurship for me. It's just been a totally huge learning process.
Yeah. It's a theme of life, man. That's all there
Oh
is.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of like this microcosm of your life in greater sense. A business. It's like a little baby or something. You have to
Yeah.
take care of it and
Yeah.
watch it grow, I guess so.
Dude, it's awesome. And you guys have won quite a few awards, right? I was looking through, you won first place in two different awards, and then I think I saw a second place in another one. But I mean, one, so originally was Produce Mate, because I know I saw something as well about it being a project you worked on in college for your degree. Was Produce Mate the first idea, or did you have any blunders before that, or has Produce Mate just been like the golden gem that came to, and then you're like, all right, this is it. You found the
Yeah.
thing, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I sometimes even wonder, the golden gem thing is an interesting idea. Well, I'll get back to it. But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I feel like, yeah, I've been doing entrepreneurship. Like I've been hustling to make my money. I don't
yeah.
love that. I don't love that word, but I've been, finding ways to make my money
Hmm.
uh, since I was 16. So like I was a tutor. I don't know.
Very cool.
I never really like worked a regular pay like
Traditional,
payroll
yeah.
sort of job, I guess. Except for when I was going to school, I like worked at college radio. And then since
Oh,
then,
very cool. Yeah.
I've had an internship or two here and
Hmm.
there. But for the most part, yeah, for the most part, it's just been entrepreneurship.
Very cool.
And so far, they've all been bad ideas. But that's part of the fun.
That's good though. Yeah, that's exactly. That's part of it. You gotta shed the bad ideas to get the good ones, you know?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know that yeah, it's, yeah, yeah. I think that's probably right. And then for Produce Mate, yeah, I'm trying to build a company that is long lasting and that
Hmm.
has real value and heart behind it,
Yeah.
like some real lasting um, force that's driving it. Like I
Yeah.
really am looking at Produce Mate as uh, an entity that is obsessed with food waste and that
Yeah.
is trying to contribute to the ecosystem of people working to fight food waste. So that's
Yes.
the
Yeah.
idea. So for now, like, the Produce Mate, sort of our first product and kind of our
Hmm.
first attempt at doing this, um, is just that. Like
Hmm.
it's we're going to market with a really great solution that saves people at home. I'll get
Yeah.
into pitch mode now, but saves people at home up to $300 every single year. It pays
Yeah.
for itself. It's completely carbon net neutral over its
Hmm.
lifetime. Um, so we made a really great product, but I just really see this as the tip of the iceberg. There are
Very,
tons of
yeah.
tons of tons of smart, inspiring people out there
Hmm.
working in creative ways to fight food waste.
Yeah.
Produce Mate's longevity and like the golden nugget of Produce Mate is the fact that like we're in that ecosystem. Like I'm
Yeah.
just obsessed with the question, like how are we supposed to answer these huge problems of food waste, basically.
Definitely. And I
Yeah.
think that's a very important thing to distinguish because I feel like there is a good amount of entrepreneurs out there who are in the business of finding whatever good product it is, making a company, then flipping it. They don't care if it's structured right. They don't care how well everything runs. They're like, all right, this cool thing's running. I'm going to sell this off when we're doing well and then not worry about it anymore and make my new thing. So it really
Yep.
sounds like your passion behind food waste is what's like driving this company and you want it to keep being successful, and like more things can come from that. And I think this is a good time to kind of move into your passion for food waste and figuring out and solving those problems, because I know you wanted to touch on those, and I think it's an important thing for all of us to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. This is I've had lately. I've had like a harder time kind of like talking about food waste. I feel like
Yeah,
the whole world is so focused right now on coronavirus and
yeah,
on like what that is doing to the planet and
hmm,
to one another.
yeah,
So well, I don't know if this is, I don't know. Check me if I'm wrong on this. Sometimes
yeah,
I feel like, one crisis at a time, like some
yeah,
things can feel so heavy, like so
definitely.
overwhelming to talk about climate change all the time and to talk about a really uncertain future.
Hmm.
So I will try my best to remain as optimistic as possible.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
in general that is my outlook on the world and on the world's problems in general.
hmm,
Um, I don't have very much defeatism in me. I don't
yeah,
have very much um, placidness in me. I
hmm,
can't really like sit idly and like let those things happen,
yeah,
especially because I'm so fortunate to have a college education.
hmm,
And if you want to, I just have a laundry list of privileges and opportunities in front of me.
yeah,
So I feel I feel very much that the world is like in a crazy place right now. Anyway, I
yeah,
just wanted to start with that because I think that it's just we're in a really interesting time. So
yeah, yeah, definitely.
food waste though, I think is like the dumbest problem. It's like one of the most frustrating, like wow, like it just makes me so upset. And I think a lot of people
Yeah,
can relate to that because um, let's say like in the household, right? Nobody is throwing away their food on purpose. Like after
hmm,
you go to the grocery store and you buy whatever your weeks or 10 days worth of food, um, it sucks. Like nobody is excited that they didn't get to use all their broccoli or that their tomato have a black spot on it 3 days
yeah,
sooner than they were expecting, or so on.
hmm,
Um, it's a problem that like nobody on its very face value, it's completely deplorable. Like nobody likes throwing food away. It's like this,
yeah.
it
It
feels
just
so
feels
wasteful.
bad.
It just
Yeah,
feels
yeah,
bad. The scary part is like when you crack open the surface and you say like, okay, well, it sucks, it feels bad, but like, what are we actually wasting here?
hmm,
It just gets worse because
yeah,
you're wasting money. The average family of four people wastes about $1,500+ on groceries, so or on wasted groceries every
yeah.
year. And if you buy
What? That's
organic,
chaos.
it's more like
Yeah,
1,800. So if you're
yeah,
trying to eat healthy, you're actually wasting more food most
yeah.
of the time.
Wow.
Um, so there's this huge money thing, right, which obviously pulls at people's heartstrings, and people make decisions because of make decisions based on financial security all the time.
Yeah.
Um, the second one is that you're wasting all of the resources that went into that food in the first place. So
Hmm.
we are so disconnected uh, from our food, from where it grows, from how it's grown, from who grew it. Like we have no connection at all to it.
Yeah.
And it's because we have built these amazingly complicated and beastly food systems that make it so you can eat tropical fruit year round, or make it so
Hmm.
if you're in the Midwest, you can eat a beautiful head of lettuce
Yeah.
pretty much whenever you want. In reality, like what it's costing to do that is huge percentage of land use, a huge percentage of water use, a huge output of carbon emissions. Um, and it's massive. It's to the tone of something like 25% of global greenhouse gas emissions contributing to climate change are from our food systems, from our food production.
Yeah.
A further 8% is from, or 7 to 8% is from the methane that is outgassed by rotting food in landfills. So altogether,
Wow.
you have this this surface level thing that people hate, that nobody feels is a good thing.
Yeah.
It costs us. It costs America billions of dollars every year, hundreds of billions of dollars every year on wasted food, and it's contributing at least. But some estimates are lower, but between, if we're being conservative, a quarter of global greenhouse gas emissions are
Yeah.
coming from our food. Um, I think that it's time that we need to really rethink our relationship to what we eat, and we need to really imbue our food with a sense of respect and yeah, I think a sense of respect. I think that's
Yeah.
really what we need for our food.
Yeah.
Um, in the meantime, if I'm really rambling here, I know I
No,
should have
no,
warned
I
you
love it. I
about.
love it. I love it.
Yeah. In the meantime, I've read some articles that say changing what you don't eat, so wasting less of your food and making sure you really are eating all of your leftovers at a restaurant, for instance,
Yeah.
can have just as much of an impact on the environment as changing what you are eating. So a lot of people say that
Mm.
changing your diet is one of the best things you can do for the planet. Just cutting out beef is really the main thing. Beef and beef
Yeah.
products are some of the most heavily contributing.
Hmm.
Um, Wasting less food can be just as impactful as that. Say you
Yeah.
swap to an all plant diet. If you wasted 50% less of your food, it would still have similar levels of impact. That's the
Yeah.
idea.
Hmm.
So, so here we are. So you can imagine, like, I think I guess I would have been a early junior year Dagan that just, like, wide eyed, like,
Yeah.
this is a huge problem that I had no idea about, that it affects every single person at every step of the supply chain. Every single day, we're wasting hundreds of millions of pounds of food that just ends
Hmm.
up directly into the landfill. Perfectly
Yeah.
edible food, perfectly edible food. So there you go.
Wow.
That's why
Yeah.
I find it so frustrating and so compelling
Yeah.
a problem.
Well, it's so important too that you're leading Produce Mate for this cause, and you're
Mm.
going to try to create products in the future. Just have that vision, because I know earlier you were talking about how you don't really feel like it's the right time to talk about food waste during a pandemic. But I saw, it was like one of those cheesy Instagram like quote story things, but it was good because it was talking about how like we all feel passionate about different things. Like you can understand that you shouldn't eat beef, and then you should recycle, and then you should also eat, not waste your food, and then you have to also go volunteer at a homeless shelter and like do all these things. You can try to be the perfect person, but you're probably going to exhaust yourself being concerned about all these different things. Whereas like if you feel really passionate about one, like you're in like the ecosystem that is the world, you're helping that one. Someone who's really passionate about the other one can go do that one, so it's like
Oh yeah.
spreading yourself so thin trying to be like Mother Teresa can kind of do the opposite sometimes, right? Like if you're not well, you're going to burn out and you can't actually help anything. So
Oh yeah, that's
it's
totally true. I read one time, one of my philosophy classes in when I was in school said,
yeah.
was a similar idea about, like, about your morals, about, like, holding yourself to these really 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 high moral standards,
Yeah.
actually results in, like, yeah, cognitive and emotional burnout. It's like
Yeah.
you can't continue to be a good person forever. You'll be, like, sterile and boring and exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the point of the paper that I read, but kind
Yeah.
of a similar idea, right? So maybe there never is a wrong time to be talking about, like, what particular issue
Yeah.
frustrates you. I just
Definitely.
meant that I'm hesitant to, like, overload people. Like, I
Yeah.
know there's a
Yeah.
lot going on right now.
Well, I feel like even right now too, though, because everyone is like going to the grocery store probably
Yep.
like half as much as they used to, if not like a three-fourths less, So they're
Yep.
probably overbuying food. And I've even noticed, because we're overbuying stuff, like the
Yep.
race to finish my leftovers is like chaos. Because I'm someone who like grew up and it was like you don't waste the food. You know what I mean? So like
Yep.
we'll make a bunch of food and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to eat pasta again, but I made 8 bowls of it. So like this has got to happen.
Oh, I can relate to that. That's so true.
Yeah. So it's like, especially right now, and it's because we're home all the time. So like, I feel like if I go out in my day and I do all this stuff and I come home and eat the same bowl of pasta, it's fine because everything else in my day was different. But like me and Lizelle keep talking about how kind of our only solace is food right now.
Yeah.
and
I
like a
feel that.
diversity of food. So it's been a challenge. We have eaten all the food, but it's definitely been a challenge because we're overbuying and trying to make sure things don't go bad. So
Oh yeah, I'm hyper conscious. I like freak myself out about my buying and eating habits, and even
yeah,
yeah, I did the same. It's like I have a couple of potatoes out there that I gotta chop some stuff off. I'm gonna end up with about this much potato because it's been
yeah.
sitting there for so long, but I'm still gonna eat it.
Yeah, potatoes are my worst. I don't get mad at me, but that's the one thing that like there's just so many of them. Like
Yeah, I
at
hear
least
you.
one goes bad every time, which is awful.
No, I'm not mad at you. That's one thing also. I think that kind of this like impassioned food waste person,
Yeah,
it's a problem it's bigger than all of us.
yeah,
Um, just with a lot of things in climate, just like with a lot of other big issues in climate change, like we need good policy, we need small businesses tackling it, we need big businesses acknowledging that it's a problem, we need
yeah,
grocery stores trying different things, we need tech startups taking a different approach. Like it needs to be this conglomerate of people
yeah.
making small choices. Like that is how change gets made.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so maybe right now is right now is a great time to have a produce made if it can help you stay at home a couple weeks
Yeah.
longer, or maybe not a couple weeks. Maybe you'll get another week out of your stuff. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, but that does tons. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
totally. Yeah. And for us it's the difference between eating your food and not eating it. That's a success for us is
Yeah,
if your onion only needed 3 more days, like,
yeah,
oh, I was going to make a stew but not till Wednesday or whatever.
yeah,
Um and we can give that to somebody, like that's what it's about for us. Like I really believe in we wanted to make something that was so simple, so straightforward, and that for a fact it's reducing your impact on the planet.
yeah.
And so either it's doing that directly because you're wasting less fruits and vegetables,
Hmm.
or it's because of the initiatives that we're working to put in place. So, for example, we're a member of 1% for the Planet, which commits us to 1% of our gross sales go directly to environmental nonprofits.
Oh wow, very
But besides
cool.
that, we're also, 1%, be 1% better is sort of their program. And they target a lot of big companies where
Yeah,
1% is, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
yeah,
Obviously, that's not the case with us yet. So what we're focused on now is trying to build out this educational aspect where Produce Mate's social media and our website and our
yeah,
materials are full of novel value about the problem that encourages people to try new things at home, to store their produce a bit differently,
hmm,
that suggests different times to go shopping for certain seasonal fruits and vegetables, that helps you find farmers markets in your location. Like
yeah.
that's the kind
Oh,
of
that's very, yeah, that's awesome. That's
that's the kind
awesome.
of like
Yeah,
backbone, like if the Produce Mate is our first product and we
yeah,
want to be a food waste company, like what is the backbone of that company? Like that's a huge thing for us is partnerships with other people that are trying to approach the problem from a different angle,
yeah,
and helping people understand the problem, helping people visualize why it's so impactful, and
yeah,
give them really like encouraging, optimistic ways to be better and different. Like
yeah,
that's the idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I feel like, how have you gone about, because again, you studied philosophy and you went into entrepreneurship, and it
Hmm.
it feels like you have an understanding of food waste on a very deep and intellectual level. Like you know a lot more than most people do. But such is the case, when you know more, relaying and teaching people who know little to nothing about it can be hard because the gap, like you kind of have to simplify things, like Lizelle was talking to me about just even things that we take for granted that we understand about our bodies in healthcare.
Yeah.
People will come in and say, oh, I haven't been eating salt because they didn't know sodium meant salt on their food and stuff. So it's
That's
just like
really
basic
interesting.
things that no one ever thinks people might not know
Yeah.
is more difficult. So like, how have you, I guess, drawn that gap in order to make sure that you can simplify it enough for everyday people to understand why it's a problem and how to fix it?
Yeah. That's a really good question. Well, that's a good question and something to keep in mind too, because like we're really like we're rolling out a lot of this stuff, so I'll definitely keep that in mind. Um,
Hmm.
I I have so far found it a pretty easy.
That's
Like
good.
we
Yeah.
don't have this like incredibly technical problem. Like
Yeah.
for instance, if you were going to try and pitch like a new software as a service company,
Hmm.
uh, B2B that solves an extremely niche back end, like
Yeah.
then the people you're describing your problem to are, one in 1,000 people at the company
Yeah.
would understand really what you're saying, and it really is solving their problem or whatever,
Hmm.
or maybe one small team. We're not like a super traditional startup in that sense. Like we
Yeah.
don't have this extremely niche thing really.
Hmm.
Um, Household food waste is what we're focused on.
Yeah. Which
Um,
everyone
and,
can kind of understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so far, so anyway, to answer your question, I try to put it into physicality. I try like even just in our short video and stuff, like the noise of the onion hitting the bottom of the trash can,
Yeah.
or like the feeling of watching your stuff rot in the fridge. Like
Yeah.
I try to embody a lot of the problem, and then I always try to put it in like monetary terms also, because I think that um, that provides a standard. Like it's easier to visualize what it looks like to waste $300 than it does to
Yeah.
waste 50 pounds of food. Like you can't
Yeah.
even really visualize what 50 pounds of, maybe you can, but I personally
Yeah.
have
I can know.
like a small dog amount of food. Is that like
uh,
cans or vegetables or what?
yeah.
So
It
I don't
makes it
know.
more personal too, which is smart. You guys are
Yeah.
smart for doing that for sure.
And then I guess the other thing that I could add is like Produce Made is very cutesy. It's very colorful and very like
Yeah.
approachable. Like we wanted to take this like monstrous problem and make it approachable, like make it
Hmm.
almost like almost elementary and lighthearted in its approach.
Yeah.
So hence the Produce Mate bunch of mascots, and
Yeah.
hence our colors are orange and blue and green and very simple primary kind of
Yeah.
shapes and everything. Um, so we're going to try that with all of our marketing and branding, and we're going to give that a shot for the next couple of months and just see if you can communicate a scary thing
Yeah.
in an approachable way.
Yeah.
That's the plan, is to try that.
Hmm. Definitely. Very cool. And then for, I guess, marketing and branding as
Yeah.
well, are you guys doing any tracking? Are you guys doing any surveys to see what people want and don't want, or to see if they'd be interested in your kind of product? And how does that work? And do you use any external third party services for that?
No, actually. So
Yeah.
that's definitely part of what we've been doing is trying to build like a good backlog of kind of
Yeah.
early supporters and people that like the brand a lot.
Yeah.
So that was a huge motivation for going to Kickstarter. The plan is to like leverage those people later, like to form
Yeah.
real connections with the people that supported us at the beginning, and just to
Hmm.
say like, hey, like this is the direction we're going. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? So I know that it's super important, but
Yeah.
so far it's kind of untapped, to be honest.
Cool, cool. And when can I buy one? Because I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, you can buy one right now. The pre-order store is online. It looks a lot like the Kickstarter did because of the
Okay.
the platform that we ended up using. Sort of carries over the Kickstarter bundles and deals,
Yeah.
and also runs sort of the survey from Kickstarter through it. So it's kind of all in one software that we needed at the right time.
Yeah.
So it's called CrowdOx is the name of the pre-order
CrowdOx.
store. You can check
Okay.
it out. If you just go to producemate.com and push shop now, you won't receive it until the goal is to get all of them delivered by the end of July.
Okay.
Um,
Very cool.
so we ran the Kickstarter to be able to afford the very first production run of mats.
Yeah.
And now they're being made like as we speak, like this week and next week. Like
That's awesome.
they're like on the press, like doing it. It's awesome. It's crazy.
Wow, that's amazing.
So yeah,
Very cool.
they're coming very soon. It's really exciting.
So just go to producemate.com and
Yep,
then click the link there and you'll be able to go get your
totally.
own. And
Yep, and we've got 3 different colors and 3 different options for you right now for sizes and
that's
bundles.
awesome.
If you're, I'll keep plugging if I can.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely plug away. And then
Yeah.
I'll put links as well
Okay,
in the
cool.
post for this episode there. So everyone, look out for those links. Go get your own produce mate. And Dagan, I think we might be coming to the end of our time, but I did want to ask you before we go, what was your highest moment so far with Produce Mate? And then what was one of your harder ones?
Mm, okay, cool. There have been plenty of both. This has been
Yeah.
a roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster of an experience. Um, let's see. Maybe I'll try to do like I want to start with the bad one, but it's harder to pull kind of negative thoughts out of my head. So I'll start with the great one.
Okay.
The 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 moment that I handed my mentor and my advisor, Peter Ricord from
Yeah.
UP, I handed him one of our prototype produce mates.
Yeah.
Like that was a really like full circle moment, and
Yeah.
he helped me figure out so many small nuances and big questions about produce mate,
Yeah.
and had really been an inspiration to me. And it was really cool to be able to like show him like, look, we're doing it, like here it
Yeah.
is.
It's happening.
So
That's
that was
awesome.
one of the more proud moments, I think. um, some of the tougher moments, running a Kickstarter is very, very, very hard. Like
Yeah.
I was I underestimated the amount of work and
Hmm.
I don't know how to put this, the amount of unanswered calls. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. I'm pretty used to rejection.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's something about Kickstarter where like you have to constantly be on the push. Like
Yeah.
you have to be bugging all of your friends all the time. You have to be talking
Hmm.
about it constantly. um the
It's a lot of pressure.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure, and I would
Yeah.
say like 75 or 80% of the outreach and the
Yeah.
attempts that I made were like didn't lead anywhere.
Yeah.
So I would say like that kind of feeling of like looking at the goal and knowing that we have to get there, and like falling short on the people that I'm reaching out to, that kind of stress in the moment was
Yeah.
really, really challenging. So
Yeah.
I don't know that
Definitely.
it was a bad moment really. Again, there's just so many opportunities to be learning, but
Yeah.
that was one of the more challenging things so
Do you
far, I
think
would say.
having your team for support while you were doing that was a lot easier? Because I feel like going it alone, when you get those rejection calls, it's easy for the thoughts to come up like, man, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Whereas if
Yeah.
you have like a foundation who's like, come on, 100 more calls today. You're like, all right, yeah, let's do it. You know, just
Yeah.
keep going. We're here. We're in this together, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%. And at the time, and uh, now I am still a part of the Portland State Business Accelerator, which is
Gotcha.
sort of a small community of either collegiate or just post grad students
Yeah.
working on small businesses, and a small team of mentors that are there to help us.
Very cool.
I was there, and so like that community of people was just so supportive. Yeah, and then like I mentioned, like Produce Mate is a family business. Like
Yeah.
it's a very cool thing to like be able to work with my family.
Yeah.
Um, they were especially my father. He was just like amazing. It was super helpful to have someone there to be like, oh, this was a bad day. Like nothing went right. I don't believe in these decisions, but
Yeah.
it's part of it. Like entrepreneurship is very much, it holds a mirror straight up to your self-doubt and to
Yeah.
your worry. But uh yeah, it's great because of that. Like because you don't get a choice. Like you have to
Yeah.
face these kind of big scary questions head on
Hmm.
and make decisions that are going to grow Produce Mate, and that
Yeah.
as a result grow like me personally.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been very, very personally fulfilling so far.
Definitely. I think that's a really cool thing about trying anything outside your comfort zone like that,
Oh yeah.
especially starting a business. You're just constantly every day faced with maybe a new program that you're like, this is gonna be easy, and you're like, I have no
I have
freaking
no
clue what
idea.
I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, but start to gain the mentality of noticing even when you fail or when you're figuring things out, like you're learning and growing, and like just
Yeah.
getting that the ideation of, wow, like as long as I'm growing, I'm good,
Yep.
through the bad. So that's awesome, man. Do you have any last words for anyone before we hop off?
I don't think so. I just want to say thanks so much for having me on here. Yeah, this is like maybe I've done I mentioned I did college radio for a few years, but
Yeah.
I'm just getting my toes wet in the podcast space. So it's always a joy to be able to try something new. And yeah, man, it was great to talk to you. Hopefully your listeners found this enjoyable, and check us out
I think
online.
they will. Yeah. Thanks so much for being on. I learned a lot, and this is good.
Yeah, man, cool. Well, we'll talk again soon then,
Yeah.
hopefully.
And then real quick too, social media. Where can we
Oh yeah,
find Produce Made at?
definitely. Check us out. Definitely check our website out. That's www.producemate.com. We're also at ProduceMate on Instagram and Facebook. Check us out.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Dagan.
Thanks, man. See you
Have a good
later.
one.
Bye.
Bye. All right, that concludes my interview with Dagan Kay. If you like this episode and want to keep up with us more, make sure to rate us on iTunes at A Wild Tomorrow. Check us out on Instagram at A Wild Tomorrow, and you can also go onto our new website, www.awildtomorrow.org, to check out every podcast episode on there, any uploads we have, any of our blog posts, as well as our social media and links to the podcast and everything else. Other updates, we will now be posting all of our videos on YouTube. After this episode, this is going to be the first one up there, so you'll have an extra visual aid as well, if that's the route you'd like to go. Thank you all so much for your support, and wishing everybody good hearts and eased minds during this difficult time. Looking forward to talking to you next time.